Okay, so get this. For today's deep dive, we're going to be looking at some notes and tips all about how to study smarter, not harder, and, how to wake up feeling like you can, actually face the day. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, most of us sort of stumble through those things, like without really thinking about the science behind them.
Right. It's like, who hasn't sat there staring at their notes feeling like it's all just a bunch of random words?
Yeah.
Or like, you sleep for 8 hours, but you wake up and you still feel totally wiped. It's the worst.
It is. And the cool thing is, like, all the stuff we've been looking at, there's like all this research backing it up, and it's really basic stuff that can make a huge difference.
Totally. So first up, we're tackling study tips.
Wow.
Have you ever tried that Pomodoro technique?
Yeah, I have actually.
I've been trying it out recently, and it's wild how much it actually helps. Like even though I'm technically taking more breaks.
Yeah, well, it's all about working with your brain's natural rhythms. We have these like peaks and valleys of energy throughout the day, these ultradian rhythms. And a lot of times we try to just power through it, but we're like fighting our own biology.
It's almost like interval training, but for your brain. You wouldn't run a marathon without stopping.
Right. Taking those breaks, even if they're short, it lets your brain reset so you can come back and actually focus. And that actually leads perfectly into something else from the research, active learning. It's like not enough to just read stuff or highlight.
Totally. I've noticed that when I try to just absorb information passively, it's like trying to fill a leaky bucket.
Yeah, and that's where things like active recall come in. So think about like if you had to explain something from your notes to someone who'd never heard of it before.
You couldn't just repeat the words back to them.
Right. You'd actually have to understand it to explain it. So that's what active recall is. It's making yourself retrieve the information from memory.
Okay, so instead of just reading and rereading my notes, I should be quizzing myself or trying to explain it out loud.
Exactly. Exactly. Like you're teaching it to someone, even if it's just an imaginary student.
Gotcha. Oh, and this one's a bit surprising, but one of the sources mentioned studying right before bed.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Is that actually a good idea? I always thought you were supposed to wind down before bed, not cram more stuff in.
Well, when you're asleep, your brain actually processes and consolidates the information you've taken in during the day. So going over material right before bed can help you remember it better the next day.
Oh, wow. So it's like giving your brain a head start.
Exactly.
That is pretty cool. This is making me realize how important sleep is in all of this. I mean, if you're totally exhausted, all these fancy study techniques aren't going to help much, right?
Oh, absolutely. Sleep is like the foundation. It affects everything. Your mood, how much energy you have, how well you can think.
Right. And that brings us to the second part of our deep dive, waking up feeling refreshed. You mentioned earlier feeling tired even after a full 8 hours. So
Yeah.
have you ever thought about your sleep cycles?
Sleep cycles.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, right. Sleep cycles.
Yeah, so we go through these cycles every night. Each one is around 90 minutes.
Oh, right.
And they have these different stages, from light sleep to deep sleep and then REM, which is where you dream. The key is to wake up at the end of a cycle, ideally after a period of lighter sleep. If you wake up in the middle of a cycle, especially during deep sleep, you'll probably feel groggy even if you slept for long enough.
So that 8-hour thing is more of a suggestion than a rule.
Exactly. It
Hmm.
really depends on the person. Some people might feel better after 6 hours, others might need 7.5. It's all about finding what works for you.
Okay, so it's about like paying attention to your own body.
Exactly. Have you ever woken up feeling tired, fallen back asleep, and then woken up again feeling amazing? That's you naturally hitting the end of a sleep cycle.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I've totally had mornings where I've hit snooze a bunch of times and then ended up feeling way more awake.
Right. So another thing that can really mess with our sleep is screen time before bed. Is that really as bad as everyone says?
It is, yeah. It's the blue light that screens give off. It interferes with our body's production of melatonin, which is the hormone that regulates our sleep-wake cycle.
So if you're scrolling through your phone before bed, you're basically telling your brain it's still daytime.
Exactly.
No wonder it's so hard to fall asleep.
Oh.
So what can we do about that? Besides just, putting our phones away?
Well, there are a few things. One really simple one is to drink water first thing in the morning.
Oh, okay.
I keep a glass by my bed and just down it as soon as I wake up.
That's a good idea. It's so simple, but I bet it makes a difference.
Yeah, it's like jump-starting your system. Also, doing some light stretches to get your blood moving.
Yeah, that makes
And
sense.
then trying to get some sunlight as soon as possible.
Right, to signal to your brain that it's actually daytime.
Exactly.
Okay, so it's pretty amazing how, like, these little things can really impact your whole day.
Yeah.
So to wrap up, what are the big takeaways here?
Well, the main thing is to work with your brain's natural rhythms, not against them. So, no more all-nighters, take breaks when you're studying, actively engage with the material, and remember that good sleep is more important than how many hours you're technically in bed.
Right, and don't be afraid to experiment with your wake-up time to find that sweet spot. Oh, and don't forget to drink water, stretch, and get some sunlight first thing in the morning.
Exactly. So now we have a question for you, the listener. What one small change are you going to try after listening to this? Will you try the Pomodoro technique? Maybe adjust your wake-up time? Put your phone away an hour before bed? Even the smallest changes can have a big impact.
Totally. Let us know what resonated with you and what you're going to try. Thanks for joining us, and remember, small steps can lead to big changes. We'll catch you on our next deep dive.
See ya! Bye!